Are we ready?
Go ahead.
My name is Jan Freed, and I'm Chair of Plan and Zoning Commission, and I'm going to read the rules and procedures. The Plan and Zoning Commission is generally an advisory body to the City Council. The City Council will hold a public hearing and make the final decision on all matters before the Commission other than site plans and subdivision plots, unless denials or conditional approvals thereof are appealed. Please contact the City Clerk or Community Development Department staff at 515-689-9485 for details on council hearings. The applicant will be given 10 minutes to present the request. If applicants wish to share materials not already submitted with the application, please email them to planning@dmgov.org so a staff member may be able to share them on the screen when you present. Proponents and then opponents from the public are allowed to speak in that order, with each speaker allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Staff has attempted to compile a list of people who would like to speak on each item. Staff will first call on these people and then will open it up to anyone else who wishes to speak. To request to speak during the hearing, please use the raise hand function on Zoom via the internet or dial *9 on your phone. Once permission to speak is given, to unmute and mute, dial *6 prior to speaking. Also, we ask that you keep your microphones and phones on mute unless you've been given the chance to address the commission by the chair. The applicant is then allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal if any opponent spoke. All comments are to be germane to the item under consideration, and speakers are to maintain a courteous manner. The hearing will then be closed and the commission will discuss and vote on the issue. Items listed on the consent portion of the agenda will not be individually discussed and will be considered for approval in accordance with the recommendation in the staff report unless an individual present or member of the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately under the public hearing agenda. The City of Des Moines is pleased to provide accommodations to individuals or groups with disabilities and encourages participation in city government. Please know that typical accommodations may be limited by emergency requirements as issued by the state of Iowa and the City of Des Moines. Tyler, roll call.
Chunga.
Here.
Rocky Spizzato.
Here.
Will Page.
Here.
Emily Webb.
Here.
Jan Freed.
Here.
Dory Briles.
Here.
Lisa Howard.
Here.
Carolyn Jennison.
Here.
Steve Wallace.
Here.
Greg Wattier.
Here.
Greg Jones.
Here.
Francis Bogus.
Here.
Caleb Bergson.
Here.
Johnny did advise me he won't be present tonight, so we have 13 members present.
Thanks, Tyler. The minutes, are there any corrections or changes or any discussion on the minutes?
Madam Chair, this is Eric Lundy, Senior City Planner. There's nothing to correct or change this evening. I did want to point out that these are considered site plan items that would not carry forward to the City Council unless they were appealed from the decision tonight.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that first item in the instructions doesn't really apply to anything on this agenda this evening unless it's appealed.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion? Do I hear a motion?
Jan, this is Abby. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Abby. Tyler?
Caleb Bergson.
Yes.
Francis Bogus.
Yes.
Greg Jones.
Yes.
Greg Wattier.
Yes.
Steve Wallace.
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Jan Freed.
Yes.
Emily Webb.
Yes.
Will Page.
Yes.
Rocky Spizzato.
Yes.
And Abby Chunga.
Yes.
That motion carries 13-0.
Thanks, Tyler. We don't have any consent items tonight, so we're going to turn our attention to the public hearing items. Item number 1, request from Jacqueline Wiki for a public hearing site plan for review of the following type 2 design alternative and denied type 1 design alternative in accordance with chapter 135, sections 135-9.2.4b and 135-9.3.1b for property located at 5322 Grand Avenue for construction of an 894 square foot basement story addition from attached garage to the existing 900 square foot basement for a house type A in an N1A neighborhood district. Catherine.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Catherine Dreyhaus, planner for the City of Des Moines. This one's a little bit of a brain teaser tonight. The subject property is located on Grand Avenue across from Merrill Middle School. Couple of photos to give you a little bit of context. I'm going to speak primarily to the garage addition to begin with. As you can see, the property currently has a deck structure that's also utilized as a carport for the original tuck under garage. The applicant is looking to replace this with a addition to the rear of the dwelling, which would serve as a 3-car garage as well as a expanded deck structure. And then just kind of the front again to give you some context. I'll zoom in a little bit on the site plan so you can just get a better look at that. So here's what's existing. Down here is, oops, thought that was going to give us a little, can't seem to highlight. My apologies. So you can see the existing carport, and then the gray shaded area, if you can see my mouse, is where they will be putting the addition on. Just a little bit more context with the site plan, and then some elevations that we received. The brown shaded areas are some elements that will be removed. This is the side elevation. You can see through the deck structure here, and then what it will look like on the elevation side. The bit about this that's so brain twisting is that as a building addition, it does require a full, excuse me, let me back up. So the bit that's a bit brain twisting is that by adding on to the basement and then having the parking in this area, they're looking to utilize more than what would be the total of the story area of the basement for parking than the code allows, which is 30%, and is, since they're looking at a 49, almost 50% will be parking. That's well over the 39% that staff is allowed to approve administratively. So that's the large bulk for why it's in front of you today. Staff is supportive given that there's some topography and existing building issues in this site. We have asked that there would be some planting of shrubs along the eastern facade, which is actually the site you can see in the side elevation, to just soften that edge for other users of the private drive and visuals of the neighborhood. And the applicant has indicated that they are comfortable with that condition. The second issue that we have before us is that the code, this is triggering a requirement of compliance with the code for screening of the mechanical units. In this particular case, the AC condenser, which is a pre-existing feature on the northwest corner of the dwelling. So here's a site photo from the west. You can see that the, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the AC unit is located approximately here behind the topography on the neighbor's property with a berm and some landscaping. This is just from across the street. Again, you can see the landscaping close up here. This is located on the neighbor's property as well. So you can see that there is some screening, but it is all on the neighbor's property at this time. And so when we went to the planning administrator for a type 1, it was deemed that there is not sufficient landscaping to screen from the right-of-way the AC unit, which you can see right about where the cursor is, if you can see the cursor. Just another photo with a little bit other angle. And as such, as staff cannot support the type 1, we are recommending denial for the requested waiver for the screening, which in this case as well. So again, I'll just reiterate, we are recommending approval of the garage addition with the condition of planting of shrubs along the eastern facade. There were a couple of type 1 alternatives that you can read on the screen, and then we're recommending denial of the requested waiver for the required screening of the AC unit. The applicant has given us a narrative per part of their, as a required component of the application. I have this further down so you can read it in a bit. They did do some recent very nice landscaping, but again, just to put that in front of you, the planning administrator did look that over and did not feel that it adequately protects the neighborhood character with to meet the required screening component. And then we did not receive any communication back from the notification area. And then I would be more than happy to answer any questions that the commission might have for me at this time.
Questions for Catherine? Okay, is the applicant online? Please state your name and address.
Yeah, this is Cade Mailer and Jacqueline White, my fiance. Our address is 5322 Grand Avenue. Good evening. Appreciate your time this evening. So yeah, the house was built in 1923, and it has a one-car garage that is essentially part of the existing basement. And then the carport, and the carport is actually starting to crumble. But we like the fact that it does serve as a deck and want to keep with that idea. And the nice thing about this garage is the entire west side is pretty well below ground. So then it's really just that east side that would have shrubs on it, and you'd have the same facade as the current house with the brick. And there's also shrubs already on that side of the house, so it would just be a nice continuation of the house. And you know, given that we are on a private drive, we're always you know, our cars are always in sight of our neighbors, and on that private drive we usually have to have guest park, so this would allow us to have a proper driveway as well, which we ultimately wouldn't have to use that private drive to the extent that we are having to do currently. So yeah, and then in regards to the AC unit, so in the summertime, I must say it looks a little different because there is a nice ornamental tree on the corner of the house when it's, in fully bloom. You really can't see it. We did just add all the granite chips of rock that actually match the AC unit color quite nicely. And we've planted a lot of trees. So we planted a maple tree in the front. We've planted 2 Black Hill spruces. We planted a big, it'll get big someday, a rhododendron right along the sidewalk. And we also planted a magnolia on that side and a weeping willow spruce tree. And I mean, all of that I just listed off is on the west side. And I guess the only thing I would say is keep in mind those are all, young trees that get very large, especially the Black Hill spruce. I mean, as that matures, that'll actually be up against that AC unit in 15 to 20 years. I get that's a long ways off. But my other concern with the AC unit is the fact that we actually have quite a bit right in front of it. So you can see there's a hose there that actually comes out from our basement. That's goes to the sump pump. And then we also have drainage tile, which we ran into when we did the new rock landscaping. That's from the gutters. And then we also have the gas line right there. So I would rather not disturb that area, especially when I don't think it's all that noticeable. The house is kind of tucked in. It's lower elevation than the rest of the houses around us as well. So it truly is pretty well hidden as is, in my opinion. So with that, if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and thank you for your time.
Questions for the applicant? Any questions? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor of this, in favor of the applicant? Okay, I'm not hearing any, I'm not seeing any hands. Is there anyone online who wants to speak in opposition of this proposal or express concerns? Raise your hand or... Okay, I'm not seeing any. It's time to close the public hearing. Okay, so commission, we've seen pictures, we've heard we've heard the applicant. Time for discussion.
This is Francis Baga speaking, and it's my opinion that what this covering up the mechanical provisions there next to the house is more akin to what is in commercial buildings when you have large units. This is a small residential air conditioner, and I think it's not appropriate to put a screen that I think would probably be larger than the existing air conditioning unit. So therefore, I would make the motion to adopt Part A and also adopt Part B, and we'd recommend approval of the requested waiver of required screening of mechanical equipment. I think they've done a good job, and this part of our job here in the Planning and Zoning Commission is to address the citizens and allow them relief from certain planning decisions that may not be appropriate to their individual circumstances.
Thanks, Francis. Other comments? Okay, we have a motion. Tyler?
Rocky Spizzato,
Yes.
Will Page,
Yes.
Emily Webb,
Yes.
Jan Freed,
Yes.
Dory Briles,
Yes.
Lisa Howard,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Greg Wattier,
Yes.
Greg Jones,
Yes.
Francis Bogus,
Yes.
Kayla Berkson,
Yes.
and Abby Chungeth.
Yes.
Motion carries 13-0.
Thanks, Tyler. We're on item number 2. Request from Julie Mason at 1518 Pioneer Road, review of a type 2 design alternative in accordance with chapter 135, section 135-9.2.4.b and 135-9.3.1.b to allow construction of an addition of a house type B in an N3A neighborhood district with waiver of the required public sidewalk installation per section 135-8.5.2.a. Bert.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair and members of the commission. This is Bert Ross, planner for the city of Des Moines. The request before you is for waiver of a required sidewalk along the front property line. The subject property is located on the north side of Pioneer Road in between Southeast 14th Street to the west and then the city's Pioneer Park to the east. The property contains a single family dwelling. The applicant is basically doubling the size of their house. They're making a significant investment in the city, which is what we love to see. But because the addition represents more than 50% of the area of the existing house, then that requires full compliance with our current regulations. And one of those is provision of a 5-foot wide sidewalk along its frontage. So as you can see, there isn't any other segment of sidewalk within this area, which is the impetus for their request. Here's a photo of the existing house. The addition would be put onto the back, and I'll show you their plans here shortly. And then here's a photo looking from the driveway to the west, and the applicant's going to use this photo as part of their reasoning for not wanting to put the sidewalk in, but I believe staff will argue that there's still room behind the tree to the north where they could still place the sidewalk. And then here are some street view shots that just show the neighborhood. This is looking to the to the west down Pioneer Road, and then this is looking to the east down Pioneer Road towards Pioneer Park at the top of the hill. And I just put these in here to show you that there really is not any other segment of sidewalk in the area. I did put together this map here that shows existing sidewalks. Hopefully you can see this orange strip here along Southeast 14th Street. That is the existing sidewalk along Southeast 14th Street. And then over here on Southeast 17th Street, there are about 5 houses here that were infill that do have sidewalk in front of them. But otherwise, between Southeast 14th Street and Pioneer Park, there isn't any existing sidewalk. But the city uses this as an opportunity to get the sidewalk put in piecemeal when opportunities present themselves. So as I mentioned, plans for that, you can see the existing houses in this area. Then this portion to the rear is the addition. And it's just the drawing of the rear. They're not really making any changes to the front of the house. There's floor plans. You can see that this line here represents the existing house, and then everything to the north or behind this line is the addition. So they are doubling the size of the house, which, like I said, we love to see people invest in our city. So here's the consent map. We didn't get any comment cards back either way. So as far as the staff recommendation goes, as the commission's well aware, staff typically recommends denial of these requests. We feel that it's a goal of the city's MOVE DSM transportation plan, as well as the goal of the city council to get sidewalks whenever and wherever we can. So we have recommended denial of the type 2 design alternative tonight. And there, we do have the sidewalk committee that started up in about a month ago to look at issues such as this, but we've only had one of those meetings, so the sidewalk committee really hasn't had an opportunity to present any options for alternatives at this time. So are there any questions for me?
Bert, this is Greg Jones.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yes.
Does the city have any plans in their sidewalk scheme to put sidewalks on Pioneer Road?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I don't believe this is one of the priority areas that the city's getting
Well,
them
there's
in the
not a
short term.
school, so
Right, exactly. And there aren't any sidewalks in the park either.
thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Bert?
This is Will Page here, Bert. I just want to comment about, I'm glad that you showed the stretch on Southeast 14th Street. That street gets more pedestrian traffic than one can actually imagine. Thanks for showing that, because this is a stretch that really proves that the sidewalks are an important portion of Move Des Moines.
Yeah.
Thanks, Will. And pretty soon we're going to have a sidewalk committee who has recommendations. So anyway, that's great. Other questions for Bert? Is the applicant, if the applicant's online, please state your name and address.
Yes. So I've allowed Brent Bunkers to talk. He can unmute himself now.
Hello. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Brett Bunkers. I'm the owner of Oakwood Builders Group. I am the contractor that will be doing the addition for Jason and Julie Mason. Started working with them this summer about this plan. Jason's parents built that house in 1959. Jason grew up there as a kid with his siblings. Jason has, in the past 10 years, married, has 3 young kids. His parents sold him the house, bought the house next door so they could be close to family. Jason is part of the Des Moines Fire Department, so he is going to be here for the duration. As we went through the whole planning, obviously the house is not very big, so to double it in size does not take much. They have 3 bedrooms, family of 5, so we are adding the master suite to the back side with a full basement. As we went through the bidding process, the permit or the budget did not allow us to finish the basement, so that will be left alone for the time being. So because of budget, when we went to go pull the permit and I was told I had to put a sidewalk on, that's when I questioned and asked why, because of, as you already stated and have seen, there's not one sidewalk on that whole street. Not only are there no sidewalks, roughly there's about 28 houses on that street. Today, I drove up and down there. 10 of those 28 houses that have driveways are gravel. They're not even paved. So for the long term of adding sidewalks to this street, there's going to be a lot more work that would need to be done if this were ever come true. So I am representing the homeowners on their request to see if we can get a waiver of this, because they don't want to be the only one that is forced to put a sidewalk that leads to nowhere. It is not a busy street at all. They've been there their entire lives. And they just seem like it's forcing them to waste money in an effort where they could use that money to help further their overall plan of the house. And I think in the end, improving the house size, more taxes for the city of Des Moines, being longtime residents, doing what they can to improve this neighborhood is far more important than putting a sidewalk and having to maintain it for whatever reason. So I took this picture of the tree to also show there was a tree in a way. Yes, we have room on the side. Trees don't get smaller. And then, then you got concrete busting in the years to come on a sidewalk, which will never connect to anything else. So the houses on this street also, I don't foresee much improvement on this street. You can look at the assessed values on this street. They probably range from 60,000 to 150,000. I would say a majority of these people look like they are original homeowners and have been there. There's only a handful of houses that you can tell they are putting some money in and trying to, improve the neighborhood. But I just don't see sidewalks ever being a priority for the city of Des Moines on this street because it really doesn't lead much. I live on the south side. I built a house in Easter Lake. Southeast 14th is not a street for sidewalks. That street is extremely busy. It's only going to get busier as things improve to Indianola and Carlisle. I drive down that street for 22 years. That thing is not the safest street. So encouraging sidewalks along there, I don't know if that's all that in something that is worthy, but that's just a side note on my part. But anyway, there's no sidewalks on this whole thing, and it just seemed to be odd that you would make these people put a sidewalk in at this point in time. So we rather see that money go towards the house to help them get their ultimate goal, and that is to have a finished basement as well for their growing family.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Questions for the applicant or the applicant's contractor? Questions from the commission? Is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor of the applicant, in favor of this proposal?
I am not seeing any.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Anyone who wants to express concerns about this?
I'm not seeing any hands raised now either.
Thanks, Bert. Thank you. It's time to close the public hearing. Time for discussion.
Hey, Jan, this is Rocky.
Yes.
I would make a motion to approve the waiver.
Okay. Other comments?
I support, this is Will Page here. I think that that's a very good idea, Rocky, and I support your motion. I do take exception about the sidewalk on Southeast 14th Street, however, because I drive that 2 or 3 times or more a week, and I see people on that sidewalk all the time. It's a bus route, and it's a well-used bus route, so I support whatever the city decides if a situation arises for sidewalk implementation on Southeast 14th. I do support your motion, Rocky, in terms of Pioneer Road.
And this,
Dan,
yeah, go ahead.
this is Greg Jones.
Yeah, Greg.
Will, I appreciate you defending the sidewalk on Southeast 14th. This is another one where, since the city really has no timetable for a sidewalk, and we would just be putting one right in the middle with no potential to connect it up. And as a sidewalk committee, we're hoping that staff can come up with some way to either defer or some way have the owners help at some point in the future. But since we don't have that mechanism yet, I support the motion too. And the second thing I would say is I think it's also sad that our ordinance, when somebody's trying to improve their property by doubling the size, seems to penalize them for it rather than encourage them for it. And I know that's the way that it works. It's just, it seems unfortunate to me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. And I was going to say, I support the motion also. It seems like when you look at the photos, it would be like a sidewalk to nowhere for now, but I understand the city trying to get movability. So, okay, we have a motion. Oh, go ahead.
Jan, sorry, this is Abby. I just wanted to make a point that I support the city's move Des Moines, and I'm not exactly sure without this piecemeal approach how sidewalks are ever going to be put in, because there doesn't seem to be the priority system or a more logical way of putting them in. I feel like this is coming up on such a regular basis, and there needs to be some basis for which ones we let through and which ones we don't, because to me, this is continuing to set a precedent that means we're not putting in sidewalks. And I'm not sure where that leads us, which, you know, I think walking is really important. And I think that giving alternative forms of transportation other than the car is important, and that is reflected in our city's plan, and we need to support that. And I'm, other than, you know, huge amount of city money going into putting sidewalks everywhere, I'm not sure how it's going to get done.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Abby, and I agree with you. And that's why we've got this sidewalk committee that we hope will help us come up with some kind of you know, recommendations so that we don't continue to do this. And the other thing I would say is, you know, sidewalks really do, I think, improve values, because lots of people say, especially with kids, they want places where they can have sidewalks. So, well, okay, we have a motion, and we've had good discussion. So I want to thank everyone who contributed to the discussion. So Tyler?
Will Page,
Yes.
Emily Webb,
Yes.
Jan Freed,
Yes.
Dory Briles,
Yes.
Lisa Howard,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Greg Wattier,
Yes.
Greg Jones,
Yes.
Francis Bogus,
Yes.
Caleb Berkson,
Yes.
and Abby Chungus,
Yes.
Rocky Spizzato.
Yes.
Motion carries 13-0.
Thanks, Tyler. We're ready for item number 3. The applicant is Anto and Sonia Bakic, 4023 Southwest 31st Street. The review of the following type 2 design alternative in accordance with chapter 135, section 135-9.2.4.b and 135-9.3.1.b to allow construction of a 22-foot by 22-foot detached garage within the front yard area, where accessory buildings are only permitted to be located within a rear or side yard per section 135-2.22.1.d.1. Eric.
Yes, Madam Chair, Eric Lundy, Senior City Planner. This is a existing single-family neighborhood or one household living neighborhood in the area north of the airport. Another block south of this area would be on Southwest McKinley, just north of the airport. So Southwest 31st Street, where you see it crosses Summit Vista Drive here. A lot of mature trees on this property. You barely can see the house in the aerial here on the northeast corner. The house sets back quite a ways, but beyond the halfway mark of the depth of the lot. It does not currently have a garage. It has a shed. You can see it does not have a paved driveway, but the way that the land is shaped for the property, the driveway is most logically placed on the north edge of the property. Also, the existing mature trees make it sensible, I think, to want to keep the drive access point in this location rather than cutting into the terrain you see to the right. can see how much more that rises up above the street there. You can see a shed there in the far background south of the existing home. The home was built in the 20s. It has arts and crafts features, wide trim around the windows, somewhat steep roof pitch. The two fences you see on the right are the backyard fences of properties that front Summit Vista Drive. This is the schematic that was submitted with the permit application. They are showing the driveway here with a perpendicular access drive then to the garage, which would have an opening facing to the north and not towards the street. And so you would see the side elevation of the garage being out in front of the house. Arguably, there's room here for a garage, but again, the terrain works against the opportunity for that, and the removal of the mature trees comes into that equation as well. That's just a floor plate of the garage being proposed. Would have a pedestrian access door towards the home. A fairly generic set of elevations. Staff believes it should be the lap siding. Some question about the roof pitch, although if you get the roof pitch much taller, then it starts to get to the point where it might be taller than the house, and that would be another regulation that would have to be considered then in terms of relief of this if the garage potentially ended up taller or as tall as the house. That might be another appeal that they would have to get into. So I didn't recommend anything with regard to the roof pitch, and it's not an absolute requirement in the code, but there is a standard that it does meet the character. You can see that in the applicable requirements. So if the Plan and Zoning Commission felt that was something important to the character, certainly that would be open for discussion for the commission. Again, you see that the elevations are fairly blank. This shows the pattern of material for the lap-sided material that's being proposed. Moving to the staff report. One of the things staff really considers here is the terrain and the way this will present itself on the property in terms of once you pave the driveway and so forth. It will be better that it would drain to the north and the west into the street versus draining onto properties to the south, for example. We do want to see some more detail on those facades. They should not be blank from staff's perspective. Therefore, we would recommend that there be windows on each of those walls that would be comparable to what you would have seen in the photos. So proportionate in terms of the ratio, such as this one that you see here. Probably wouldn't need to be any larger than that window. And we would want the trim around it that would be in character with the way the house is designed as well. So staff is recommending the compliance with the other, recommending granting the type 2 design alternative subject to compliance with all other provisions applicable to accessory structures and detached garages, including providing the paved driveway access to the adjoining street. provision of a minimum of one window with 4-inch wide trim on the west street facing facade at a minimum. And again, we want that set in that zone between 2 and 8 feet above grade somewhere, so that it's not up too high and doesn't look appropriate. Any detached garage setback at least 45 feet from the east of the front east of the front, which is the west property line, so that the garage is completely east of the front facade of the house on the property to the north. So we don't want this garage projecting into the front yard view shed of that house to the north. We believe this can be accomplished. And then we want to make sure that there is landscaping provided between the west front property line and the garage to the satisfaction of the planning administrator. We do want to have some low-level landscaping of interest to soften up that as it is out in front of the primary dwelling. So that's where we're at this point. We did not receive any written comments in opposition. I've had one phone conversation with an individual I believe I saw is in the group of attendees tonight that owns the property in this area with some concern. So you might hear some concerns from that individual.
Questions for Eric?
And I believe Mr. Beckich is here as well to make his request.
Questions for Eric from the commission?
Hey, Eric, this is Greg. Can you bring up that photo again of the front of the house?
Yes.
And the question I'm going to ask, I should have researched this. The question I'm going to ask is if someone was building a new home in this neighborhood and it had to be a certain, per the planning document, a certain type of home, what are the requirements for the garage with a new home, a detached garage, in terms of the architecture or the materials, or what are there, if any, requirements?
So those are listed in your staff report. It is a little subjective, but it does require that it be in character. So when staff reviews those, like a new house, for example, that would have a detached garage, we are making comparisons of the character of that detached building to the main dwelling.
Great.
In terms of its character. So it's also the same with a new garage on an existing home like this.
Okay.
We are reviewing it against the character, which is one of the reasons why we want the same type of siding material and windows. Again, when you're seeing a blank facade on that side of that, if you're standing this far back and the garage is there with a window, unless you really have good depth perception, you might even get the sense that that's part of the same building. Would be the idea. Now, the roof pitch was something I contemplated, but I think if it got too much more of a roof pitch, it starts getting into the height of the house, and I think it's better in this case to be subordinate to the height of the house.
Thanks, Eric.
Other questions for Eric? Okay, if the applicant's online, please state your name and address. Unmute.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. This is Anto and Sonia Bekic. Can you hear us now?
Yes,
thanks for the opportunity, and I hope you all are doing well. So my wife and I purchased this house and we love it. As you can see from the pictures, we did some beautification there, and the house came with a gravel driveway that didn't have any garage on the property. And we thought it would be nice to put one up there. So in order to put one and meet the codes, it would have to be in a really, really awkward spot with the driveway being, 200 feet long and curving across the whole property line. So the next common sense to put the garage was there as proposed, which would blend well with the property and the lot size and the distance from the street as well, from the neighbors. So the four proposed recommendations from staff I see over here are absolutely 100% in place, and we would love to put a window there as they recommended, which will look nicer as a structure rather than a wall. As Eric also mentioned, there are a lot of mature trees that are really on our way to put a garage any other place, and we would like to preserve them if we could. So they survived the last storm we had, and would like to keep them for another 100 years.
So, sir, do you agree with the staff report?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, that's great. Questions for the applicant? Okay. Is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor of the applicant? In support? Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition or someone who has concerns? Is there someone on?
Chair, Gary Hudapal.
Okay, does he have permission to speak here?
Yeah. He has to unmute though.
Yeah, unmute, please. *6.
He's unmuted. He should be able to speak now.
Okay, is there someone who wants to express concerns about this proposal?
I hear something very faint. I'm not sure if his audio is working very well.
Okay, I don't hear anything, but what do we do?
Mr. Hudapal, are you put your raise hand up if you've been trying to speak. So he clearly has an audio problem. I don't know if there's a way to get him to dial in by phone.
Eric, this is Judy, and yes, that would be my suggestion. If you can just ask him if he can, we will wait if he wishes to try connecting by a phone.
Eric, do you want to instruct him?
Yes. So going back to
we go back to the first page.
Yes. So I'm going to put that. Can you see that on the screen? You can dial in directly with this number called one-tap dialing, or you can use any of these numbers here and enter the webinar ID and the passcode. We'll give you a couple minutes. If you understand that, raise your hand again.
Okay, all right, good. I see a hand raised, so this is good.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, I'm hearing something. Eric, do you hear anything?
Yes, might be. Yeah, might help if everybody else, but the chair maybe mutes at this point.
Yes, I'm sorry. I had someone walking through the back office here, so I'm just going to mute myself.
Okay.
I'm watching to see if a phone number comes in on the attendees list.
Okay, thank you, Eric. The hand went down, so I'm wondering if he is connecting now. I see a number.
On your phone, press *6. Oh, you should be good.
Okay, Gary Hideful.
Okay,
Yep,
Gary,
we can hear you now.
go ahead.
Now I'm getting a lot of feedback. I'm at 3007 Summit Vista.
Right, sorry, thank you.
And my only concern is, it looks like this garage is more behind my neighbor's house at 3001 Summit Vista. And I just want to make sure that we are downhill from this property. And the only thing I can think of, I love the idea. I think the garage is a great idea. I just want the gutters kind of going out towards the front of the house. So we can eliminate any kind of water coming into the backyard of our houses that are downhill. I know we're graded okay, but you know, we're Iowa. We get a lot of good rains in our area, and I just would feel a little bit more comfortable if we had them gutters going out towards the front of the house rather than the rear of the house.
Okay, thank you. Questions for this for Gary from the commission? Okay. The applicant, so why don't we have Mr. Bakic? Do you want to address the gutter issue, please?
Yeah, great concern and a good point from a neighbor's standpoint. My only question would be like the west side gutters would be no problem to place them up front. The east side gutters, the water would splash over the driveway, which in winter obviously would freeze and would be also slippery hazards. So the question is how to really address that and which one is more important at this point. So the gutters could be placed anywhere they need to go, so that would be no problem. Yeah, that would be more also concerned to Gary's house, the neighbor at west of you. And it would affect his house more than yours, but point well taken. I'm just wondering how to address the spilling water on a driveway and potential sidewalk that would go from the service door to the house.
Madam Chair, this is Michael Ludwig, Planning Administrator.
Yes, yes.
They will have to be pouring a new driveway to this garage. I would think that the downspout could have a pipe or a tile or whatever underneath the driveway that it connects to that would run it to the west side of the driveway or east side of the driveway, whichever it is, to avoid the water running across the driveway. But they'll be pouring a new driveway, so it'd be fairly easy to put a drain tile or something from the downspout to the downhill side of the driveway so that the water doesn't cross the driveway. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point. Other comments from the commission for the applicant? Okay, thank you. It's time to close the public hearing. Time for discussion from the commission.
Hello, this is Greg Wattier.
Yeah.
I think I'm willing to support staff's requirements for approval. I kind of wish there was a little more teeth in there to make the addition more in kind or in fitting with the existing home. The existing home seems to have some nice character and proportions. So personally, I do think roof lines, roof slopes, details are important. And, you know, if the flavor of the board is to add a few more things, I'd be happy to do so and make a motion. But if not, I'm also willing to support how Eric wrote it. Thanks.
Okay. So Greg, did you want to make a motion or do we want more discussion?
I'd like to hear some discussion.
Okay. Other comments?
Jan, Rocky, I'll move staff.
Okay. Does anybody else want, I mean, we've got a motion, but anybody else want to say anything about this proposal? Okay, we have a motion. Tyler?
Will Page,
Yes.
Emily Webb,
Yes.
Jan Freed,
Yes.
Dory Briles,
Yes.
Lisa Howard,
Yes.
Carolyn Jennison,
Yes.
Steve Wallace,
Yes.
Greg Wattier,
Yes.
Greg Jones,
Yes.
Francis Bogus,
Yes.
Caleb Berkson,
Yes.
Abby Chungeth,
Yes.
and Rocky Sposato.
Yes.
Motion carries 13-0.
Thanks, Tyler. Director's report. Is there something, Michael? Mike?
Actually, Madam Chair, I don't have anything to report. I just wanted to wish everybody a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. It's been a very challenging year for everybody, and it'll be a very different Thanksgiving, I'm sure, for many. But just wanted to wish you all the best and continued best for the rest of this year and on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And I would echo that. And I would just say, stay safe, everybody. It's a challenging time. So stay safe and thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.